The room was dark, filled with smoke and cold laughter. Strange lights flashed over rows of alien faces. It was not a place for kindness. It was a secret auction, deep under the ground, hidden from the laws of the galaxy. And it didn't sell gold, weapons, or land. It sold living beings. Jace, a human mechanic from a dusty border planet, stood in the back. He didn't belong there. He wasn't rich, and he didn't enjoy the show like the others, but someone had sent him an invite, a mysterious message that simply said, "Come see what real entertainment means." He had no idea what that meant, until he saw the cage. The lights dimmed. A loud voice echoed in the room, announcing the next item for sale. Lot 72, young female, still breathing, a true exotic piece. One of a kind. The crowd laughed. Glasses clinked. Someone shouted a joke in a language Jace didn't understand. Then, the cage rolled out onto the stage. Inside it was a girl, small, thin, alien. Her skin shimmered like the night sky, dark purple with silver spots. Her silver hair was dirty and tangled. Her arms were chained to the floor of the cage, her head was bowed. She didn't move, not even to blink. "She's broken." Someone laughed. "Good. Makes her easier to play with." Another voice shouted. Jace felt sick. The auctioneer tapped the cage with a stick. "Come now, gentlemen, don't be fooled by her silence. She's still alive, she still feels pain, and that's what makes it fun." More laughter. Jace looked around. Everyone was smiling. Everyone was bidding. He looked back at the girl. She didn't look at anyone. Not even when the cage rattled, not even when someone shouted a high bid. She was like a statue. But then, something happened. For just a second, her eyes moved, and she looked directly at Jace. They weren't angry. They weren't afraid. They were empty, and that broke something inside him. Without thinking, Jace raised his hand. 10,000 credits, he said. The crowd fell silent for a moment. Then someone laughed. "A human? What are you going to do with her? Fix her up with engine parts?" The voice mocked, but the auctioneer smiled. 10,000 from the human, he said. "Do we have more?" No one answered. Going once, going twice. "Sold." The buzzer rang. The cage started to roll toward him. "Wait," Jace said. "What happens now?" The auctioneer grinned. "She's yours, human. Entertainment, property, whatever you want, but no returns." A tall guard unlocked the cage. The girl didn't move. The guard pulled her out like a rag doll and dropped her at Jace's feet. She fell to her knees, weak and shaking. Her wrists were bleeding from the chains. Jace kneeled beside her. "Are you okay?" The girl didn't answer. She slowly lifted her head and whispered something too soft to hear. He leaned closer. "What did you say?" This time he heard it. "Don't hurt me." His heart stopped. She thought he was like them, that he bought her for pain. Jace looked around. Everyone had already turned away. The next item was being announced. Another cage. Another life. He looked back at the girl. "No," he said softly. "I'm not here to hurt you." He took off his jacket and wrapped it around her shoulders. She flinched. He didn't touch her again. He just sat there beside her, waiting. After a long moment, she leaned into the jacket. That was enough for now. Jace stood and helped her to her feet, not by pulling her but by offering his arm. Slowly, carefully, they walked out of the auction together. No one stopped them. No one cared. To the others, she was just broken cargo. But to Jace, she was a person, and she was now in his care. As the doors closed behind them, the cold night wind hit their faces. The stars above seemed far away. Jace looked at the girl beside him, silent, scared, but still standing. He whispered, "Let's get you out of here." And for the first time, her fingers lightly held onto his sleeve. A tiny grip, a quiet plea, and the beginning of something no one in that auction room could ever imagine. The ship hummed softly in space. Outside the windows, stars stretched into streaks of light as they entered jump speed. Inside, silence. Jace sat in the pilot's chair, his hands steady on the controls, but his eyes kept drifting to the corner behind him. There she was, the alien girl, wrapped in a blanket, knees pulled to her chest, head resting against the cold wall. She hadn't moved since they left the auction. She hadn't said a single word. She didn't ask where they were going. She didn't care. She just sat like she wasn't really alive anymore. Jace tried not to stare, but it was hard. She looked so fragile, like she could vanish if he blinked. Her silver hair covered part of her face, and her arms still shook, though the ship was warm. He stood up and walked to the small storage unit. He pulled out a protein bar and a bottle of water. When he offered them to her, she didn't move. "It's food," he said gently. "You need to eat." Nothing. He placed the items beside her and sat, a few steps away, not close enough to scare her, just enough so she knew she wasn't alone. For a long time, they sat in silence. Then her eyes flicked toward the food. Her hand moved slowly, like it hurt just to reach. She picked up the water and drank, only a few sips, then stopped. The protein bar stayed untouched. Jace didn't speak again. He just nodded once, then went back to the cockpit. He didn't need thanks. He only needed her to live. Hours passed. When Jace returned to check on her, he saw something new. Something strange. She had moved. She wasn't in the corner anymore. She was curled up on the floor near the engine room door, her blanket half dragged behind her. Why there? Then he realized. The engine hummed. It was warm. The only sound in the ship with a steady rhythm, almost like a heartbeat. She was drawn to it. She didn't trust people. But machines? Machines didn't scream. Machines didn't chain you. He quietly walked away, leaving her with the warmth. Later, he opened the repair panel near the ship's comms unit. The old translator chip he had found years ago was still there. It was dusty, half broken, but maybe, just maybe, it could help. If she couldn't speak his language, maybe the translator would bridge the gap. He spent hours fixing it, fingers black with wire grease. Sparks flew, tools clicked. Tiny lights glowed. When he was done, he walked back to her, careful not to make sudden moves. "I fixed something," he said, holding the small device out. She looked at it, then at him. Her eyes were tired. Empty. "It won't hurt," he promised. She stared for a moment longer. Then slowly she reached out and took it. Her fingers were shaking. She studied the chip, then pressed it to the soft skin behind her ear. A faint beep. The translator lit up. For a moment, nothing. Then a voice came through, her voice made by the translator. Soft, mechanical, empty. "Why?" she asked. Jace froze. That was the first word she had spoken since the auction. He looked into her eyes. "Why what?" She blinked. "Why did you take me?" He sat down slowly. "Because no one else saw you as a person. They just wanted to use you. I couldn't leave you there." She didn't reply. Jace added, "You don't have to trust me, but I'll protect you, even if you never say another word." Her lip trembled. "Do you have a name?" he asked gently. She hesitated. Then, in a whisper through the translator, came the answer. "Kayla." Jace smiled for the first time in hours. "That's a good name." Kayla turned her face away. She was crying, but her shoulders weren't, shaking with fear this time. It was something else, something new, something beginning. Later that night, Jace found her sitting in the co-pilot's chair. She wasn't speaking, just watching the stars. He didn't say anything. He simply sat beside her. Together they watched the lights in silence. Two broken souls in a quiet ship, flying through a cold galaxy. And for the first time since he met, She didn't look away. The ship drifted through deep space, slow and steady. Inside, Jace adjusted wires in the control panel. Sparks danced as he cursed softly under his breath. Behind him, Kayla sat in silence. Again. But something was different now. She no longer hid in corners. She no longer flinched when he walked by. Her translator still worked, but she barely used it. Just one word so far. Why? Since then, she had said nothing. She watched him, though. Quietly. Closely. Every movement. Every tool he picked up. Every part he touched. Jace noticed. He began to teach her, without words. He let her see. Let her learn. When the food dispenser broke, he fixed it while she stood in the doorway. When he wiped the oil from his hands, he tossed the cloth to her. She caught it. That night, she wiped her own hands after eating. It was small, but it meant something. On the third day, Jace made soup. He wasn't a good cook, but it was warm and real. It filled the ship with a smell that wasn't metal or fuel. It smelled like comfort. Kayla sat at the tiny table, hands on her lap, waiting. She didn't ask for food, but her eyes followed every movement. Jace set a bowl in front of her. She looked down at it. Then she looked at him. And finally, she spoke. "Hot?" she asked softly through the translator. Jace smiled. "Yes, careful." She nodded once, almost like a thank you. He sat across from her, watching her take her first spoonful. She didn't smile. But she didn't stop eating either. Halfway through, she paused. Then she said something he didn't expect. "You fixed me." Jace blinked. "What?" Kayla looked down at her soup. "My leg. It used to hurt. You fixed it." He remembered. Her left leg had a broken support implant. He had replaced it 2 nights ago while she was asleep. "I just did what I could," he said. She said nothing else. But when the meal was done, she took both bowls to the sink. That was the moment Jace knew. She was slowly coming back to life. That night. Kayla couldn't sleep. She sat in the dark cargo bay, staring at the stars through the small side window. Jace found her there. He didn't ask questions. He simply brought a blanket and sat beside her. After a while, she whispered, "Do stars lie?" He turned toward her. "What do you mean?" "They look so kind," she said through the translator. "But they didn't save me." Jace looked up at the stars. "No, they don't lie. But they don't save anyone either. People do that." Kayla was quiet. Then, "My people left me. I was too weak." "You're not weak," Jace said gently. She shook her head. "They broke me because I didn't fight back. Because I cried." He turned to her. "Crying doesn't make you weak. It means you survived." For the first time, her voice cracked. "They laughed at my pain, and I wanted to kill them all," Jace whispered. She stared at him, shocked. But he didn't take the words back. "They thought you were nothing," he said. "But you're not. I don't know who you were before, but you're someone now, and you're safe here. With me." Kayla looked away, but her eyes were wet again, and this time she didn't try to hide it. The next morning, Jace found her in the engine room. She had taken apart a small panel and was studying the wires. "What are you doing?" he asked with a raised brow. She looked over her shoulder. "Watching the heartbeat," she said. It took him a second to understand. The ship's hum. Its engine. It was the only thing that had felt alive to her. "Want to learn how it works?" Jace asked. Kayla hesitated, then nodded. They spent the day together. Jace taught. Kayla listened. Her hands still trembled. Her voice was still soft. But she asked questions now. Why this wire? What if the power fails? How do you restart the core? Simple things. But to Jace, they were the most important words he'd heard in a long time. At night, she sat on the bunk while he cleaned up. She looked around the small ship, at the tools, at the stars, at him. Then she said softly, My name isn't Kayla. Jace stopped. That's just what they called me in the cage, she said. He looked at her, unsure what to say. You can choose a new name, he offered. She shook her head. No, I want to keep it. Why? She took a deep breath. Because I want to make it mean something good now. And with that, the first real smile touched her lips. Small, but real. The bruises were fading. The cuts were healing. Her voice grew stronger every day, her hands steadier, her eyes more focused. But Jace knew something was still broken, something deeper. Kayla was learning how to live again. But she wasn't learning how to rest. She never fully slept. Every few hours she woke up gasping, eyes wide, body stiff, sweat on her brow. She never screamed. She just sat there breathing fast, gripping the blanket like it was her last protection. Jace pretended not to notice. He gave her space, but each night he stayed a little closer. One evening, as they repaired the coolant valves, Kayla dropped a wrench. It hit the floor with a sharp clang. She jumped back, arms raised like she expected to be hit. Jace froze. He didn't move. Didn't speak. Slowly, she realized where she was. She stared at her hands, then at Jace. I'm sorry, she whispered. He knelt and picked up the wrench. You're safe, he said gently. No one's going to hurt you here, not ever again. She looked away, ashamed. Jace didn't ask questions, but that night he took a risk. He activated the old medbay hologram, one that included trauma recovery programs. He asked Kayla if she'd like to see it. She hesitated, then nodded once. The AI flickered to life, projecting soft lights and calming sounds. A female voice spoke gently. Welcome to memory support therapy. Would you like to begin? Kayla stared at the light. Jace left the room. He waited just outside, hands clenched, unsure if she'd run or scream. But she stayed. And when she exited an hour later, her eyes were red, but she wasn't shaking. Over the next few days, Kayla began to change again. She spoke more, she helped more, but she also asked hard questions. Why do humans care about others? Why did they take me? Why did no one come for me? Jace tried to answer, but some questions had no answers. Still, he listened, always. Then, one afternoon, something unexpected happened. While scanning a damaged circuit panel, Kayla suddenly froze. She backed away from the wires, face pale. Jace ran over. What's wrong? She didn't speak. She just pointed. Inside the panel, tangled between wires, was something small and sharp, an implant tag, a tracking device, old, deactivated, but once it had pulsed with every heartbeat. It was inside me, Kayla whispered. Jace understood immediately. They tracked you through this, he said. She nodded. They put it in when I was unconscious. I didn't even know. Carefully, he pulled it out and crushed it under his boot. Kayla flinched at the crunching sound. Jace looked at her. No one can find you now, not through that. She stared at the broken piece, then walked over and picked up a tiny shard. I want to keep it, she said. He blinked. Why? She gave a bitter smile. To remember what I escaped. That night, it happened. Jace was asleep when the scream shook the ship. He jumped up, grabbed a light, and ran to the small room where Kayla slept. She was on the floor, shaking, eyes wide, whispering something in her own alien language. Kayla, Jace shouted. She didn't hear him. She was lost in the nightmare. He dropped beside her and gently touched her shoulder. Kayla, it's me. It's Jace. You're safe. She gasped, eyes focusing. She saw him, and then she grabbed him, her arms wrapped tightly around him, not like a child, but like someone drowning. She sobbed into his chest. I don't want to go back, she choked. You won't, Jace said firmly, holding her. Not while I'm breathing. Later, she sat beside him, wrapped in a blanket, drinking warm tea. I saw their faces, she said quietly. In my dream. I was back in the cage. They laughed, and I couldn't move. You're not in that place anymore, Jace said. They don't control you. She stared into the tea. I know, but my mind still thinks they do. He nodded slowly. Then let's teach your mind the truth, he said. One day at a time. In the dark, quiet night, Kyla whispered something he never thought he'd hear. Thank you for seeing me. Jace didn't answer with words. He just placed a hand on her shoulder, and she didn't flinch. Not this time. The stars looked peaceful outside the ship's windows, but Jace knew peace never lasted, especially not in deep space. Kayla was repairing the backup battery unit when the warning light blinked red on the dashboard. Jace leaned over, checking the signal. It wasn't a mechanical fault. It was a ping. Someone had scanned them, not just once, but twice. He didn't say anything yet. He didn't want to scare her. But his stomach twisted into a knot. Only bounty hunters scanned ships like this, and they didn't scan without reason. That night, while Kayla was sleeping, Jace opened the galaxy's dark net on his private comms. He searched her name. Nothing. Then, just for caution, he searched the auction code Lot 72. His screen flickered, a locked post appeared, high clearance only. Hidden behind credits and encryption, he cracked it open, and what he read made his blood run cold. Wanted, escaped royal defect, 72. Reward, 1.5 million credits. Dead or alive condition, must not reach Galactic Council. Jace stared at the screen. Kayla wasn't just a random girl, she was royalty. Someone had branded her a defect, declared her worthless, and then tried to erase her. And now, they wanted her dead, not rescued, not returned. Dead. When Kayla woke, she found Jace at the ship's armory station, cleaning an old plasma blaster. She tilted her head. What are you doing? He didn't lie. Someone's looking for you. Her face changed, the quiet calm she'd built up, gone in a second. How do you know? They scanned us. I checked the bounty logs. She was silent. Then slowly she said, They'll never stop. No, Jace agreed. But I will. She looked up at him. What? I'll stop them. Whoever comes, whatever it takes. Kayla shook her head. You don't understand. My own family placed that bounty. My own blood. If you protect me, you're against them. I don't care who they are, Jace said. You're not a defect. You're not trash. You're not for sale. You're my crew. Her lip trembled. You'd fight royals. For me, I'd fight anyone who calls you less than human, Jace said. Kayla closed her eyes, and when she opened them, they were sharp, focused. Then we fight together. It didn't take long. Within 12 hours, a shadow ship fell into orbit with them. No markings, no beacon, only one signal. Prepare for boarding. Jace and Kayla locked the ship down. Lights dimmed, doors sealed. Kayla took the old plasma pistol in both hands. Ever used one? Jace asked. She nodded once. I had to learn. Jace didn't ask what that meant, but he could see the storm in her eyes now. She wasn't the same scared girl from the auction cage. She was ready. The first blast rocked the hallway. Jace ducked as smoke filled the air. A tall, armored hunter stepped through the breach, eyes glowing under his helmet. Give up the girl, he growled. And you live. Jace raised his blaster. No, Kayla stepped beside him. You first. Without warning, the hunter fired. The hallway lit up with blue plasma bolts. Jace rolled behind cover. Kayla dove the other way. Shots exploded around them. Kayla fired twice, quick and clean. One blast hit the hunter's leg. He stumbled. Jace hit. The power grid and a shockwave from the panel burst out, blasting the hunter backward into the wall. Sparks flew. Silence followed. Kayla panted, eyes wide. Jace walked over and picked up the fallen bounty tag. He held it up. Next time, he said, we shoot first. Hours later, the ship was quiet again. Kayla sat at the table, the pistol still in her hand. She stared at it. Jace poured her water. "You okay?" She didn't answer right away. Then she said, "When I fired, I didn't shake." "That's because you're stronger than they ever knew," he said. She looked at him. "I'm not afraid anymore." "Good," Jace said, "because they'll keep coming." She smiled faintly. "Then let them." Before sleeping, Kyla opened the small container where she had placed the crushed tracking chip. She added something new beside it, the broken bounty tag. She closed the lid gently and whispered, "That's 2 things they'll never use on me again." The silence in the ship wasn't the same anymore. It wasn't heavy or cold. Now it was thoughtful, like the ship itself was holding its breath. Kayla had stopped hiding. She walked freely now. Ate meals at the table, laughed just once, but Jace had heard it. It sounded like a song that hadn't been sung in years. Still, something lingered in her eyes, something buried. One morning, while clearing the storage bay, Jace found a locked metal box tucked behind spare coils. It wasn't his. Too small. Too smooth. Alien tech. He called Kayla. She came, saw it, and froze. Her hand flew to her chest. Her breathing changed. "You know this?" he asked. She nodded. "It's mine." Jace stepped back. "Want to open it?" Kayla stared at the box like it might bite her. Then, slowly, she knelt and pressed her fingers to the side. The box beeped, clicked, and opened. Inside was a small glowing cube, a memory core. Kayla didn't speak for a long time. Then she whispered, "This was taken from me when they sold me." Jace nodded. "Want to see what's inside?" She hesitated. Then, "Yes, but only if you stay." They plugged the cube into the holopad. Blue light filled the room. A younger Kayla flickered into view, dancing in a palace garden. Her skin glowed under the moons. She wore a soft dress and her laugh echoed like wind chimes. Jace looked at the real Kayla. Her hands were shaking. The next memory showed a tall alien man, regal, proud. Her father? He placed a crown on her head. She looked up at him with wonder. Then the light shifted. Suddenly, guards stormed in. Her father turned away. Another voice shouted, "Remove the error!" Kayla was grabbed. Her crown hit the floor. The memory cut. Jace switched off the holopad. Kayla was curled on the floor, arms around her legs, her head low. He sat beside her. "You don't have to explain," but she did. "They said I was born wrong," she said softly. "Not strong enough, not perfect, not worthy to lead." She looked up. "They erased me, changed records, told people I died." Tears fell down her cheeks. "I believed them. That I was nothing." Jace touched her shoulder. "They were wrong," he said. "And you're still here." Kayla laughed bitterly. "What does being here even mean?" Jace stood and walked to the window. "Being here means you get to choose who you are. Not them." Kayla wiped her eyes. She stood slowly, and for the first time, looked at her reflection in the ship's dark window. "I want to make that memory mean something else," she whispered. Jace nodded. "Then let's make a new one." They flew to a moon near the neutral zone, dead, quiet, but peaceful. A place where no royal eyes watched. Jace helped her bury the memory cube beneath a small tree he planted there. A growing thing, not a dying past. Kayla placed her hand on the soil and whispered, "I was not an error. I was a seed." Jace looked at her, surprised. "That's what my mother used to say," she added. "A seed only looks weak until it grows." That night, as they flew through starlight again, Kayla walked to the cockpit. Jace glanced over. "Can't sleep?" "No," she said. "I'm not afraid, but I'm not ready to rest." He understood. She looked ahead. "I want to help people, like me, the ones thrown away." Jace smiled. "You already helped one." She smiled back. full this time, bright, alive. Later, Kayla sat alone in her room and pulled out a small piece of scrap metal. She began carving something into it. A name. Not the one they gave her. Not even Kayla. A new one. The one she would give herself. The ship drifted quietly above a green and gold planet, its sun rising slow and soft on the horizon. Inside the ship, Kayla stood at the mirror. She wore simple clothes, clean, strong, a belt with tools, a chip scanner on her wrist. Her hair was brushed back, glowing silver in the morning light. But it wasn't her reflection she was looking at. It was the metal tag she had carved last night. One word. One name. Her own. Nora, a name with no past, no chains, no cage, a name that belonged only to her. Jay sat at the control panel, sipping his coffee, feet up. She stepped in quietly. He looked over and smiled. Morning. She nodded. I chose my name. He raised an eyebrow. Yeah? She handed him the tag. He read it out loud. Nora, huh? He looked up at her, serious now. It suits you. She smiled, a real bright smile that made her eyes glow. I want to leave Kayla behind, she said. Not forget her, but grow past her. Jace nodded. Then Nora it is. Later that day, they landed at a quiet outpost. It was small, run by traders and old engineers, mostly human, some alien. A place where names didn't matter but actions did. Jace had work here, engine repair, shield calibration. But Nora had a mission of her own. She walked through the dusty paths of the outpost, past ships and shops, until she reached a rundown shelter. Outside sat 3 alien children. Thin, quiet. Watching her with wide eyes, she walked slowly. They flinched. She knelt, opened her bag, pulled out food packs, clean water, warm blankets. Their eyes widened more. No words passed. But one child reached forward and took the food. Another whispered, "Thank you." Nora's heart thumped hard, because it was her not long ago, sitting hungry and scared just like them. By sunset, the shelter's caretakers knew her name. Not the royal name, not the auction number. Nora, and word spread. She fixed broken doors, fixed the comms tower, helped one child with a small mechanical arm. Everywhere she walked, people looked, not with fear but with quiet respect. That night, back on the ship, Jace was wiping his tools when she returned. She was dirty, tired, smiling. "You okay?" he asked. "I think I'm alive," she said. "You've been alive," he replied. "No," she shook her head. "I mean, I feel alive, for the first time." He understood. Then she said something that stopped him. "I want to stay." Jace blinked. "Here? On the planet?" She shook her head. "Not here. With you, wherever you go. I want to help people who were like me. Fix what others broke." "You sure?" he asked. "It's not easy." She smiled. "I wasn't easy either." They both laughed. He held out his hand. "Welcome aboard, Nora." She didn't hesitate. She took it. Later, as they lifted off, the stars rose ahead of them again. Nora stood at the front window looking out. She didn't cry. She didn't flinch. She just breathed. Slow, steady, free. Then she whispered to herself, a vow only the stars could hear. "I was not made to be entertainment, I was made to survive, and now I choose who I become." Behind her, Jace started the engine. The ship hummed like a heartbeat. And Nora, the girl who once lived in a cage, now flew among the stars, alive and unbroken. She didn't just survive, she lived again.